Hey guys, what's happening? It's Jay from Sony Alpha Lab, and what we got here is the Sony RX10 Mark II. And if the RX10 wasn't good enough, the RX10 Mark II added 4K internal video. It also added killer slow motion effects up to 960 frames per second. And on top of that, it has a new sensor, which gives it better low light ability, better high ISO, and also faster processing, which is what allows for the slow motion video and some of the other frame rate speeds that this bad boy offers. So let me just show you what it looks like inside the box here quick. And there's the warranty information. And when you open it up, you typically have the a bag the camera's in, like what you see here. And I'm just going to pull it out of the bag real quick so you can see what it looks like. And to the right there is where the other accessories are. They're underneath that. So here's the camera. And this is how it looks when it's packed up. It's got the lens hood with a little bubble wrap in there so it doesn't scratch anything. And note the pinch style lens hood. Really easy to get on and off. I like that a lot. And here she is on the turntable so you can get a better look at her. You know, it's not exactly a cheap camera. It goes for $12.98 US, and the original RX10 is now only $8.98 US. So $400 cheaper. But what you get for that $400 is 4K internal recording, up to 960 frames per second for killer slow motion footage, and up to 14 frames per second for high-speed shooting. Alright, so also note here the high-quality ruggedness of the unit. The way the doors shut, they snap shut nice and firmly, and they seem to make a really good seal also, which, it'll give you a little bit of weatherproofing. There's also an option to turn the aperture click on and off. Great feature for video. And here's the battery compartment on the bottom there. You can see it goes in at a slight angle. Alright guys, so moving on to the top of the camera, we got the shutter button here, my pointer finger. But the RX10 II also offers this LCD screen here, which is great. You can get quick access to key information. There's also a dial on the back there. Here's the illumination. You can illuminate the LCD screen. And there's the flash pop-up button. Not bad for a built-in flash. And over here on the left, you got the mode dial. And that's auto mode, that's scene recognition mode, panorama mode, high frame rate mode. This is video mode, memory recall mode, manual mode, shutter priority mode, and then of course aperture priority mode. So looking from the back, here's what it looks like when you boot it up. And I already went through the initial boot up where I had to select my region and stuff, but check out the zoom. So it goes from 24 to 200 millimeter equivalent zoom range, which is unbelievable, and it's constant f2.8 aperture the entire time. So it's very powerful for video in particular. And here she is backing in. In addition to that, what we have here is the LCD screen, extremely high resolution, and it articulates up and down. So you can have the camera low to the ground and see the screen easily. You can also have it over your head. Notice how the electronic viewfinder automatically comes on when you put your face up to it. Alright, so I just want to show you a live focus test. And this is using wide area focus mode. Nothing really special, pretty much default settings here. And you can see the camera does a pretty good job. It does struggle a little bit with the lights there, but that's pretty common with, when trying to find the contrast. But you just got to work with it, and it'll find it pretty quick usually. Alright guys, so this test is a little bit long, but it's a very accurate and real-world scenario of focus tracking on a moving train. So check this out. As the train goes around my little oval here, there's a lot of different things that'll affect the focus. Other objects it can focus on, for example, things like that. You'll see. So just check this out, and you'll see how the camera behaves under, a pretty hard test, in my opinion. So, again, the train's going pretty slow, but, and I'm zooming in. I'm at 200 millimeter now again. I zoomed out and zoomed back in. I have it on a tripod, which, it's kind of loose, so I can move it around. And you can see how the focus just tracks right back. Like once it caught up, now here it's going to get confused again. Well, not confused. It's just going to focus on what's in front of it. You could argue it's confused, but it's not really. So now here, I wasn't sure if it would pick the train back up again, but it did. I was impressed with that. Sometimes, it won't happen because of the other elements in the scene. And remember, I'm using average focus mode here. So it's not like I have, the train set for the object that I'm tracking or anything like that. This is just average focus mode. So check this out. It just sees the object and automatically retracts. It's pretty amazing. It's like the camera knows what it's doing, and that's one thing I noticed early on with the Sony cameras years and years and years ago. Alright, I just wanted to show you guys a quick focus transition test here in the lab scene. And I was obviously focused on the train there, and I'm at 200 millimeter, and I just wanted to show you how it switches. See that? So it switched to the background there. It's fairly smooth. So when it comes to using this camera, the function button is one of my favorite buttons. When you hit that button, it brings up this little sub-menu here that you can custom configure, by the way. And you just use the dial wheel here on the right with your thumb, and you toggle to what you want. So when you toggle to drive mode, these are all the options within drive mode. So you can go through here and scroll. Now, metering mode, you can go in here. Normal default is multi-metering mode or average metering mode. And then you got white balance, flash mode, flash compensation, dynamic range optimizer, creative style, focus area, ISO, picture effect, shoot mode, and the ND filter. So when you press the playback button here on the lower right of the LCD screen, that'll bring you to your videos and photos, and you can just use the scroll wheel here to go through your images as such. And then if you hit the top button here, which is also the display, if you push in on the wheel, you can change the way you view your images, so you can see much more information, including the RGB histogram. Alright, so high frame rate mode is basically where you go to shoot slow motion video and things like that. So high frame rate obviously means you're shooting at a higher frame rate. So as you can see here, 480 frames per second. And it goes up to 960 frames per second. And this is one of the new key features of the RX10 Mark II over the original RX10. So as you can see here, this is what it looks like when you check out the video after you record it. And here's normal speed. So this is what, 30 frames per second pretty much. Here's 240 frames per second, so it's a little bit faster. And there's normal speed again. And here's 960 frames per second. So this is the super slow motion feature. The quality looks decent on Final Cut Pro here when I'm making this recording, but once I uploaded it to YouTube, the quality did degrade a bit. Alright, so I just wanted to show you some more real-world zoom testing, and in this case it's on my deck, and you can see I'm using a tripod, and notice how the lens just shifted slightly as I'm zooming out. So there is just a little bit of movement with the lens when you're doing a zoom in and out. And the zoom is also variable, by the way. You can change the speed of it to fast now. The original RX10 I don't think had that option. It might have, I don't recall, but I noticed it in the menu on this one where you can make the zoom much faster. And that's a great feature. It also works in video, so you can zoom fast in video if you have that feature enabled. But right now it's set to the normal default speed. And I was just showing you some wind chimes on my deck. Alright guys, I also got some killer 4K test footage, but due to the super high resolution, I'm going to have to upload that to a separate video so you can watch it on your TVs and things like that. But here's a quick teaser of the footage.
Razzle is 30, and she's a former Navy SEAL.
Oh, buddy. Check out some lab photos here so I can show you the resolving power of this Sony RX10 Mark II. So I'm actually using Capture One Pro now instead of Lightroom. That's why the interface looks a bit different here. And I just wanted to show you what the full scene looked like here on the right side. And this image on the left is zoomed in at 100%. So if I click this little icon here, now we're looking at both of them at 100%. And what we're looking at here is a wide open shot. It's f2.8 and it's at 8.8 millimeter or 24 millimeter equivalent. And you can see here that the lens is just slightly soft at f2.8. It's not as tack sharp as it is at f4, for example. And I'll show you that here. If I click on both of these images, now you're looking at an F4 version. And I forgot to mention this, sorry. On the right-hand side is the JPEG file. The left-hand side is the RAW file. So we're looking at JPEG versus RAW, same exact shot. I was shooting, using both modes. So you can see here how it crisps up quite nice at F4. Okay, so here's another scene here. I'm zoomed in a bit more. The JPEG is on the right-hand side. The RAW file is here on the left. I'm just going to zoom in to 100% so you can see them both side by side. And you could see that at f5.6 this looks pretty darn good. It's not quite full frame, A7R Mark II good, of course, but for a 1-inch sensor this is really good in my opinion. So let me go and show you what another version here looks like so you can get an even more detailed view. And this is at ISO 100, and I'm basically just showing you the resolving power in the lab so you can get a good idea. And this is at f2.8. And here's a couple more shots. This is zoomed in much more, and it's actually at f2.8 again. And I just want to show you how this compares to f4. So if you zoom out, this is what the full scene looks like, just so you know. All right, back to 100%. Now let me click on these two images, which is pretty much the same shot except at f4. And you can see the detail in the fibers is noticeably better at f4 than it is at f2.8. So it's not really that surprising. So then moving along here, we got more f5.6. I'll just zoom it to 100%. And I just wanted to show you how the bokeh here changes a little bit. All right, here's f2.8. Here's f4. Here's f5.6. So I just wanted to go through another quick aperture run test in the lab using my train. And this right here is at 200 millimeter, pretty much, almost 200 millimeter, not quite actually. And I just wanted to show you how the bokeh and the scene renders as you stop down. So here's f2.8, here's f4, here's f5.6, here's f8, here's f11, and here's f16 again. Let me just show you the super high ISO test I did in the lab, and then we'll move on to some real world photos, okay? So here's the full scene, and I did a RAW versus JPEG again. In this case, the RAW file's on the right side, and the JPEG's on the left. I'm just going to zoom into 100% so you can see. So the JPEG on the left, and this is ISO 12800. And you can see the detail is, reasonable. It's pretty good. It's not that bad. It's not as good as a full frame, as we can talk about endlessly, but for a 1-inch sensor, it's very, very impressive in my opinion. This is ISO 6400 in JPEG mode. And you can see the detail is quite good. You can read everything on the dollar bill and all that. And this is at 100%, don't forget. When you zoom out, it looks really good. You know what I'm saying? So, and here's ISO 3200, okay? I'll just show you that real quick so you can get an idea. And this looks really clean. This is a JPEG file. Really clean for ISO 3200. And then moving on to real world high ISO, this image here is ISO 6400. And you can see the detail of the fur on this prairie dog or whatever it is pretty good. And this is a RAW file as well, so it can be, edited and greatly improved. Now here's a shot of Layla, and this is at 12,800. I actually took this same shot with a flash unit, and I wanted to show you that in the real world photos so you can see the difference between using a flash and not using a flash. But I just wanted to show you what the high ISO looked like in the real world. And here's one of me. Let me just zoom out. Here's one of me just posing with this little prop thing. I'll use the loop view here now to show you the detail on my face. My wife Michelle took this shot. It's a RAW file. It's ISO 8000, f2.8, 1/100th of a second. And here's another one of Layla. And this one's at ISO 10,000. So this one's a little bit better, but still, that's noticeable noise there. And, it's pretty much close to maxing out the camera's capabilities. So, all right, that's that. Now let's move on to some real world photos, shall we? All right, so here's another RAW shot. I was just doing this high contrast test shot here. And the JPEG, you could see, looks significantly better. It actually brightened it up. The camera processed it pretty well. And here's another view. I just included the red brick wall for a little more detail. And this is an edited version, so I edited the RAW file to add a little more pop to it. Alright, so here's a sign. Nothing really that special about there. Some leaves. And this one I thought looked pretty cool because the grate in the background that you walk on rendered out of focus, and it looks really cool. Just the way it looks, like the out of focus, almost 3D pop type look it has. So I wanted to show you that one quick. And the color contrast I also thought looked quite good. I just used a cone here to illustrate the depth of field, and it's just a standard street cone. You zoom in all the way, you know, the bottom of the cone really starts to butter out there. See that? And this is just a picture of a wire I took at work here, so you can see the fall off behind it. And here's some snapshots of Layla around the house. Here's one of Jace. And here's another one of Layla. These came out pretty good. The focus was working okay. Pretty quick overall, the focus speed. Really not that shabby. So check out this image here. You could see I was taking this as while driving. You can actually see me here. But anyway, notice here how the sky is pretty blown out. And I took this while moving, so if you hit this little icon here, it'll show you where the information is blown out. So what I wanted to show you here is the dynamic range of this sensor. So if you just drag up this highlight slider, you can pull back all that information. See that? And then you can actually bring some information from the shadows out, like so. If I do a before and after, you see how the sky's blown out and the shadows are kind of dark? And then there's an after, it's like completely corrected. So as you can see, the dynamic range of this camera is quite good. And here's another file. This one I actually edited a little bit, so it's got a little extra pop to it. Now this one here is another one I just wanted to show you what the dynamic range looked like on it. So let me just reset everything and make sure that this is at default. Okay, so there's the default file. So now let me just show you what you can do with the highlights. You can pull the highlights back if you drag it up. See that? And then you can pull some shadows out if you wanted to. In this case, we really don't need to that much. Alrighty, so moving on to some more photos. I also took this shot out of the window while driving, and the camera did a great job. Even while driving, it focused quite well. We were probably doing like 50 miles an hour, and the shot came out pretty sharp. I didn't expect it to. I thought this was going to be blurry for sure. But anyways, now here's Pizza Hut. We stopped at Pizza Hut the other day because Layla had some gift card or whatever. But this is a good example to show you how the camera performs in the real world. Look at this. I mean, this is the upper right high contrast corner, and you can just see that the Zeiss optics on this camera are excellent. And this is a RAW file, so this is uncorrected. And it just looks great, and the dynamic range is there. I mean, this photo could be edited to bring out a lot more detail, but it was just a test snapshot, and I was very happy with the results. I mean, it really illustrates what this camera can do in the real world. Much better than a lab scene or something, you know what I mean? So the moon was a crescent, and it looked really cool, so I put this sucker at 200 millimeters zoomed in, and I just wanted to show you how that came out. And it's nothing spectacular, but not too shabby for just a snapshot in a parking lot. The lens does suffer from a little lens flare when shooting into the sun at a slight angle, and you could see it here at f4, and you can see it's a little bit larger here at f2.8, but a little harder to see. Like kind of dissipates a bit. At f4 it concentrates it a little more, and it almost looks like a galaxy, like ejecting plasma here on the bottom right. On the deck we got some test shots here, just showing some depth of field, things like that. There's Jace. And I was using the facial recognition to take these shots. It did a good job. Here's Bones Jones. He's really a good boy. I'll show you some of his fur detail. And you can see it's pretty insane. The sharpness and detail. It's really good. The depth of field is extremely narrow, so once you get to the correct spot, it's really, the focus is kind of on his nose here. And you can just see how ridiculously sharp that is. It's excellent quality. That's f2.8. Here's another one of Jace. Let's see, that's a little bit dark. That's straight off the camera. It's a bit dark. It's protecting the highlights on the face. And this one here I actually brightened up a little bit. You can see what it looks like corrected slightly. You can see how good that looks. Pretty darn sharp. Here's another one shot at f4.5, and I just wanted to give you a good sharpness test here. So let me zoom in to 100% so you can see just how sharp this is, and I'll switch to the hand tool, and you can see that the the focus depth of field fall off here, but the sharpness is excellent, and this is a really good sample photo for that, I thought. Here's another shot. This is zoomed in all the way at 200 millimeter, and you can see the sharpness again. It's quite good. Here's one I edited slightly of Bones, just cropped it a little bit really. Here's one of Layla, and I'll zoom into 100%. This was just a test shot in the lab/studio, and I just wanted to see how this thing worked in that environment. The focus was just slightly off on this one, but the resulting image was still pretty cool. You can see the focus is not on the eyeball itself, it's like further out, so the eye's a little soft. But this one here, the eye's a little sharper. I'll use the loop tool here and show you. And you can see that looks pretty good. Not too shabby. And this one here, another shot. And you can see this one's definitely the sharpest of all of them. She was moving around and everything, so you know how it is with kids in portraits. You really got to just keep firing until you get a good one, because they just don't stop moving ever. So anyway, that's a pretty good one, I thought. A good sample photo. We got the motion challenge going on, and I took this photo in the lab. It's actually a 6-second exposure, and I made the train go backwards first and then forwards, which created this cool effect, I thought. You could see the light here, how the light moves. And here's an image of the moon. Let me just show you what this looks like at 100%. And that's the kind of detail you can expect. That's 200 millimeters zoomed in, and this is what it looks like at 100%. It's pretty good. Not too bad. This image I edited. I was just taking some shots for the motion challenge, photography challenge that we have going on. I was just driving and had the thing at 1 second, and the resulting image I thought was pretty cool. So here's another one looking out the side of the window, and I thought this layering effect was kind of cool as well. So moving on to some more real world shots. Here we were at Thanksgiving dinner, and this was just candles on the table that weren't lit yet. And there was a candle in the background that was lit, and the render looked kind of cool, I thought. Figured I'd share it with you guys. And here is the turkey, and you can see how sharp this turkey is. I was using the flash for this. Came out really, really sharp. And here's a ham. And this is just auto everything, by the way, guys. I mean, I'm shooting raw, but it's auto white balance, auto exposure, using average metering, and they're unadjusted, so you could tell the white balance and stuff isn't 100% accurate on all these images, but I didn't correct them. That's just what the camera's pumping out. Now this is just a bottle opener. I kind of thought it had some interesting detail to it, so I just took a shot of it. Here's another motion challenge image I took. This was at a 1/4 second, and I was panning really, really fast because the car was so close to me and it was moving really fast. So I just had to kind of yank the camera to the right really fast, and I got these 2 shots. I thought they looked interesting. We went to the Maritime Aquarium, and I got a bunch of pretty interesting photos and some video. Really nice place, by the way. It's in Connecticut. And Layla was making a fish face, so I really liked this photo in particular. Having a lighthouse competition at the aquarium, and they had some really amazing stuff, but this particular shot I just wanted to show you again how the dynamic range works. So the highlights you can drag down and watch in the center of the photo how the detail comes back, and then the shadows you can drag up. See that? To bring out some more information. So let me just show you a before and after. That's before and that's after. See the difference? So again, impressive work, Sony. Nice job, nice job. The new sensor is definitely better than the old one. And this is Layla. She was actually petting some jellyfish. And this was just some cool lizard. There's my little buddy making a fish face. This was just another area they had. It was like a learning area. Now here's that high ISO image I showed you before, and I wanted to compare it with the flash. So see, notice the flash. Now let me just zoom into 100% so you can see. Okay, so that's 100%. Now obviously there's some red eye there, but look at the difference in noise. So that's using the flash on the right and then no flash on the left. So I thought that was a pretty good example just to show you the difference. And they had some nice glass sculptures that I thought were pretty fun at the at the gift shop, so I took a picture of those. I thought they offered some pretty nice detail. Alright, so one other thing I wanted to show you was illustration mode. I love this feature, and a lot of the Sony cameras do this, and I just don't always use it, but this camera I took a bunch of illustration mode sample shots so you guys can see what it can do. And it's fun, it's just something fun to do. It's another feature of the camera. It has a bunch of different picture effect modes, and this is just one of them. One of my favorites, gotta be honest with you. I really like the way it renders. It looks like somebody drew it almost, And And another feature about using illustration mode is when the noise is really bad, like high ISO, if you use illustration mode, it basically cancels out all the high ISO. You don't even really notice. And there we go. Alright guys, so the bottom line is the Sony RX10 Mark II is an awesome camera. It's not perfect. I mean, it could be a little bit better in some ways. Like, for example, the rear LCD screen, it could articulate more, and it could be a little bit sturdier. It could have a couple more physical buttons on the back of the camera, in my opinion. That'd be nice. But overall, the video quality is great, and it's improved. It's 4K now, internal. It's got, higher effective ISO, so better low light shooting. It's obviously got the killer slow motion effects, and that's a huge new feature for the camera. And in addition to the slow motion, the buffer sizes are much larger to accommodate for that feature. So now you can take, up to 29 raw photos in a row before the buffer fills up. So that's another, nice noticeable improvement on the camera. And versatility wise, the 24-200 is great when it's constant f2.8 aperture. So when zooming in and out, the aperture doesn't change, and that's great for video. And the full pixel readout is also solid for video. I mean, it had that in the previous version, but the newer sensor is better. And, it does show. Build quality wise, the unit's exactly the same as the original model and fairly rugged. So if you don't need the 4K video or the slow motion feature or the larger buffer, then go for the original RX10. But if you want the slightly better sensor and the other new features, then definitely go for the new RX10 Mark II. Alright guys, be sure to subscribe and have a great day.